Our family was poor during the Depression, like so many farm families, and people in small towns as well. We were on what was called relief in those days, welfare, and we had groceries delivered to the farm. We even had coal delivered sometimes. And if we didn't have coal, believe it or not, we had to burn dried manure from the pastures. So I was accustomed to a fairly meager kind of life, but it was enjoyable in the sense that I always had fun as a kid. From the time I was a boy, I wanted to be in radio. I was with my aunt, who was a housekeeper for an old farmer in Saskatchewan, and he used to turn the radio on every day at 12:30 to listen to the local radio station, CHAV Moose Jaw, to hear the news about what had happened in the war, how many of the local boys had been killed or were wounded or missing in action. It introduced me to radio, and I thought, I want to be the guy inside that radio. So I started taking auditions when I was 15 years of age, and they told me, you're too young, kid, come back when you're older. And I hung around a radio station to the point where one guy said, if you go up to North Battleford, which is 250 miles away, I know the chief announcer up there, maybe you could get a job. I didn't have any money, so I hitchhiked to the radio station at CJMB in North Battleford, and the fellow hired me. He told me later it wasn't because of my voice, it was because I had shown the initiative that I really wanted that job. And that's how I got started in radio at the age of 17. I've had a tremendously interesting life from the time I was a kid, really, and I've been very, very lucky in my career, and gained a reputation, I guess, as a reporter that people could trust. And I used to think that I could do a story and people would understand how I'm feeling about it, particularly if it was against a person who had cheated people. I wanted to try and get as much fairness as I could for people who had been, say, cheated out of their life savings and things like that. I had a lot of fun doing the reporting. Some of it was hard work. If I go out of town on an assignment sometimes, I would work almost around the clock because I truly loved my job. I think most people who get into the news business just love what they're doing because they're doing something for society as well as for their own welfare and able to support their families. It means a lot to the public to have reporters who are fair and honest and tell both sides of the story. Real journalism starts with people trained in journalism schools and follow the ethics of journalism, which is fairness and full disclosure. And I think that's what we're lacking today, in that people are just not properly trained if they're only disseminating news on social media without any support of the facts. It's a very dangerous thing to do, and I think it's dangerous to democracy to have that in our system. When my only son was 25 years of age and already the manager of a small radio station, he unfortunately lost his life in helping to save the life of his companion. They were out on a canoe on a place called Charlie Lake in northern BC when a wind came up. And although they were both wearing life jackets, Ken did not survive. He was able to keep his girlfriend up onto the overturned canoe. He put her up onto the canoe several times. But in the meantime, he was in the cold water and he died of hypothermia. And it was the saddest day of my life to get that call from the doctor that my son had passed away. My wife, Joan, whom I'd married when we were very young, developed Alzheimer's disease when she was in her early 70s. And it changed our life completely because she had to be taken to a facility where she spent 8.5 years. She died last November. So my listeners knew about most of these things in my life and were very, very understanding and appreciative, I guess, of me carrying on. And it's difficult to talk about, but that's part of life, and you just go on. When I retired from radio in 1999, I began some volunteer work with the Canadian Cancer Society, driving cancer patients. My wife had helped me, and she would particularly help the children that we took to care. She would read to them in the back seat and so on. And unfortunately, when she was stricken with Alzheimer's, I quit driving for Canadian Cancer Society, but I was asked to help form a new society, Volunteer Cancer Driver Society, and it became a very, very big success. And that was part of my volunteer work to the community to help get that started. And I'm listed as one of 3 founders of that society. And I'm so proud of what those drivers do. What really matters when you're volunteer cancer drivers is that you feel fulfillment. You relate to the patient, and you bond with the patient, and you feel that you really are contributing something to society. You're giving back.